Hi there, I'm Lena Anani, and you're listening to She Wrote a Book, where I interview amazing women from all over the world who also happen to be published authors. I created this show to educate, entertain, and inspire you to be the voice you want to hear in the world. Now let's get started. You are listening to episode number 128 of She Wrote a Book, and today I'm interviewing Lisa Woodruff, author of the book, The Mindset of Organization. Take back your house one phase at a time. As you move through the various stages of your life, your organizational needs and the demands on your time will change. This is the home organization book that will make the rest of the books in your collection make sense. Lisa Woodruff is a professional organizer and productivity specialist from Cincinnati, Ohio. Lisa believes organization is not a skill you are born with. It is a skill that is developed over time and changes with each season of life. Again, her book is called The Mindset of Organization. Take back your house one phase at a time. You can find the link to purchase her book in our show notes for this episode at SheWroteABook.com/128. So Lisa, it's such a pleasure to have you as a guest today. My first question is this: what inspired you to write and publish your book?
Well, thanks for having me on your show, Lena. I love reading, and so I love to learn about new books, and I'm so excited to share mine as well. I sat down to write this book, and I was going to write a how-to organizing book like so many that I have read. And what I really realized that both my clients and my audience had said back to me, or what I uncovered was the reason why they weren't getting organized was because everyone was trying to follow one set way to organize, and it would only work for like 25% of the people. And I realized as a professional organizer, when I went in and organized people's homes, I was able to pivot and adjust based on what stage of life the homeowner was in and organize the same space in their house differently than I would for someone else in a different phase of life. And I realized I was using this language in my blog and my podcast and with my clients, and I needed to create a book that had these phases of life and named them and gave different characteristics of them, so I then could educate the population about how everyone can be organized. It's just a matter of understanding where you are in life and what the organizational challenges are that you struggle with.
And okay, so tell me a little bit more about these phases of life and why they are like specifically why they're connected.
Yes. So, and I'm an American woman, so this is just my American woman perspective. But I see when I organize 4 distinct phases of life. There's childhood, so I organize a little girl's bedroom differently than I do a mom that's, say, in her 20s or 30s, where she's in the accumulation phase. She's accumulating spouses and houses and jobs and children and everything that goes along with those. You're constantly buying, accumulating, and you're organizing a whole bunch of new things that are coming in. And then you hit this survival year time frame, which is like 40 to 55, about. And it's usually when a woman has school-age children or she decided not to have children. It's her prime entrepreneurial or business years. She's usually employed during this time. And this is usually the time of life where she's also taking care of her parents or a family member who has become ill. She'll be in charge of those big life responsibilities, and she's always in her car. So she wants to get organized, but she's never home. And when I bring that up, women in this phase of life constantly say to me, oh, you're right, I never am at home. That makes a lot of sense. And then somewhere around 55 plus, and it's different for everyone, women in general decide that they want to downsize. They look at all of the things that they've saved over the years, and they think about, how do I pass this on to the next generation? What do I really want to pass on? What are things that we can sell or donate and move into a smaller living space?
I love it. I feel like that's exactly where I'm at right now in my life. Can we turn this into a private coaching session instead of a podcast?
Absolutely, 100%.
No, that's exactly where I've been in my life for the last 2 years. Is it's just, holy moly, I've accumulated so much crap, and I definitely have this like desire to downsize. And even though I've downsized so much, I still want to continue to downsize. I would love to live in a space that's just furniture. And that's it. Like I would love that. Why do you think that is? Why am I feeling that way? Why are women at this stage in life feeling this way?
So you're obviously not 55 plus, right? Like, I know you're not.
I'm not. I am 37. Right.
Okay, so you are technically still in the accumulation going into the survival mode. So there's this second layer that I noticed, and from reading some other great books like the book Generations or The Fourth Turning, I'm realizing that there is a generational pull towards stuff. So baby boomers were the height of accumulating stuff in the 80s. And ever since then, we've kind of been moving more towards a minimalist life, not accumulating as much stuff. So I told you the 4 phases of life as I see them, but then you layer on top of that this generational aspect and the fact that we as a society as a whole are moving towards minimalism. So every single phase of life, they all want to declutter on top of the additional phase of life organizational challenges that they have, because we're moving more towards minimalism. But about 40 years from now, we as a whole population will be moving back towards the accumulation of stuff. This cycle has gone on and on and on for generations and generations.
That's amazing. I never knew that. So this cycle, when was the last time we saw the minimalist cycle or phase of the cycle?
So it would have been after the Great Depression in the 30s and early 40s. And then the 50s is when we started accumulating stuff, and we were in a big group of, a lot more money, and so people would have 2 cars. And then the height of it would have been the 80s and the early 90s, where people were just accumulating everything, and there was so much commercialism. And then it started to do a downturn as the millennials started to come into the workforce, because the millennials as a generation archetype always is going to be less accumulative than the baby boomer archetype is.
Absolutely. I definitely see that. That's and it's like when how a lot of people pick on millennials.
Yes. Yes.
They're just so frustrating. But that's one of the qualities that I really appreciate about them, is that they are bringing this whole minimalist this desire to be minimalist into the world. But then now that I see it as a cycle, I'm really need to I can't wait to just sit with this. So like I said, I'm going through a phase in my life where I'm just like, I want to downsize. I want to declutter. I want to get organized. So for someone like me who's listening, and so where would be a good place for everyone to start in order to see that kind of, like, in order to see the success that motivates them to keep going?
So the reason I called the book The Mindset of Organization, I've had a podcast for 2 years, and I kept telling my audience, don't even organize anything. I don't care. Just keep listening to the podcast every single week, because I'm changing your mind. And when you get ready to organize, like, you're going to be ready to do it. And after a year, people are like, I'm so glad you keep saying that, because I really haven't organized anything. But then when they go to organize, they can organize so much faster. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. It totally is this mindset shift that happens. So the book, The Mindset of Organization, doesn't tell you how to organize any space in your house specifically. But what it does is it takes you through my journey from childhood to the accumulation stage. I'm currently in the survival stage, and I help a lot of people in the downsizing stage. And I walk you through the accumulation that I have in stuff of my memories. So it's easy to go in your closet. I know it's hard to do your closet, but at some level it's easy to go in and say, okay, I'm getting rid of half of this. I really don't need the clothes. It's much harder to do that with, baby clothes and photos and your grandmother's china and all of these things that have memories associated with them. So in the book, I walk you through each phase of your life and the stuff and memories you accumulate in that stage and keep packing up and moving to the next house. And then talk to you about, why are you saving that? Is there a more meaningful way you could save that with less stuff but more memory? How are you going to pass that on to the next generation? So, like, for example, I'm a Gen Xer. You're probably one of the oldest millennials, or a young Gen Xer based on your age. We are going to inherit all of the stuff from our parents, which are the baby boom or the silent generation. And we don't always want all of that stuff that's coming out of our childhood home. Yet, the baby boomers and the silent generation have saved this stuff for us as part of our inheritance. Like, it was purposeful. It wasn't that they just shoved it in the basement. Like, they were doing this on purpose for us. And so they see us not accepting their gift. We see their gift as burden, and they see their gift as being rejected. So I really think this book is meant to open up a dialogue about our stuff, what we're saving, why we save it, and how we can really have harmony among the generations as it relates to our stuff.
I'm getting goosebumps right now. I mean, I this is incredible. Just incredible timing. A few years ago, I was starting to get stressed out watching it, like all the stuff that my parents are accumulating. They have this huge house, and they're just like every closet, every room, there's stuff. It just
Right.
Sorry, mom and dad, if you're listening. I hope I'm not embarrassing you. But and I tried to get them to recognize that. I started calling them hoarders, and they're like, "What is this word? I don't know what you're talking about." So I'm like, a couple weeks later, after everything, after they stopped realizing that I was trying to get them to declutter, I'm like, "Hey, you should check out this amazing show on Netflix. It's Hoarders." And they started watching it, and they're like, "This show is amazing." And just by watching that show, they started to realize that they do have a lot of crap. And then they started to like wean it out, which is great. And I felt like that was like my favorite way of helping them, declutter. But I really, really like your approach to that, there's a respectful and appreciative way to do that with your parents. It's just such cool insight. I'm blown away. For the benefit of the listener, you should know that I was telling Lisa earlier that the timing of this book falling into my lap was just perfect timing, and it's something that I'm going through, and so this is why this is why I sound like a total geek right now interviewing Lisa.
I love it.
It's just, I'm like, oh my God, this is all great.
Yes, keep saying it. That's fine. No, I love this, and just to your point, your parents are probably late baby boomers, and I am a Gen Xer, so I'm in the middle there. But one of the things I said in the book is I took a look at my own memories I'm saving, and we have a typical American 2,000 square foot house, and 85% of this house is mine. I have a husband and 2 teenage children, but they don't have a lot of stuff because my husband's a minimalist. And I've taught my kids from a young age to just have in their rooms what they want to keep. They don't have stuff anywhere else in the house. So I have this gigantic house to fill full of my stuff. And I have stuff from my childhood, from high school, from when, like, I don't save my kids' stuff, but I was saving all my stuff. And when you have the space and you have the stuff, why would you consciously not watch TV and go empty out your storage room of stuff that you own and you might need one day? But what I'm saying is, let's look at everything and decide, do we really need it? Because if we don't need it, then why are we saving it? Like, what are we waiting for?
I honestly don't know. That's a great question. How long do you think it takes to get your whole house organized?
So I say it takes 3 times going through your house. So typically people will get their house organized in 3 years. So the first time you go through, you just get rid of everything that you know you don't want. You donate a lot and you trash a lot, but you don't really do very much organizing. The second year you go through your house, that's when you go, okay, I'm going to declutter about 20% more because there were things I missed the first time. But now that I can actually see the drawers in my kitchen and I can walk into my closet again, let's get the nice little fuzzy hangers in my closet, or let's get a drawer organizer in the kitchen and make this actually more organizationally functional. And then the third year through is learning to live an organized life, because once you have empty cabinets and you have extra time in your calendar, I'm just telling you, it's weird because you want to fill it up. Like, you want to go out and buy stuff and fill it up, and you have to get used to living with less, living with just what you need at this time, not saving it for the apocalypse or whatever, and living in that way. And that is also the third year is usually when you start to say, okay, decoratively, I want to do these things differently, or aesthetically, I'd like to go buy a new organizer for the solution that I created last year. So the first year is getting rid of stuff. The second year is actually doing the physical organizing. And the third year is just aesthetically making it more you. And I'm sorry, but it takes 3 years. And now that I've helped thousands of women do this, they will say to me, I'm so glad you said it would take 3 years because I'm in year 2 or I'm in year 3. And you're right. You do go through these different things each year as you organize.
That's another good point, talking about how long it takes, because I feel like, as we're all moving towards a minimalist society, we're also a society that demands instant gratification.
Yes. Yes.
And so to say, no, take your time with this. It's not something that you do get done in a month or in a day or in a week. That's great. I love that. And I love the different phases of it. Do you think that, so for those of us who are picking up your book and reading it and applying what applying the tools that you shared, do you think that this stuff will, or this practice will last through the next upturn of materialism and consumerism and clutter?
Well, I think no. I think there will be a time, probably 20, 30 years from now, maybe 40 years from now, when people will go back towards materialism. And there will be different books in vogue then, but then they'll turn around and go, oh, there was this book, The Mindset of Organization. 80 years from now, it'll be popular again. Just like all literature goes through those times where it's popular and unpopular. And it's based on where the generations are in the pendulum and how we are moving through society as a whole.
Wonderful. And what do you love most about being an author?
Well, I love that I'm creating this this vocabulary for us to have this discussion where we can talk about being in the accumulation stage or the survival stage or the downsizing stage, as opposed to saying, I'm disorganized, I'm not good, I can't keep a clean and organized house. Now we can say, no, I just made the transition from accumulation to survival, so I need to change my organizational strategy. And it keeps it all on a more positive level and a more actionable, proactive level, as opposed to a shaming or I'm not worthy discussion.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks again for being our special guest today. We will have a link to your book in the show notes for this episode, and our listeners can find that at SheWroteABook.com/128 to learn more about our author and her organized book. Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to She Wrote a Book. If you enjoyed this episode, then subscribe now so you can automatically get access to all new episodes, and feel free to share your inspired thoughts with us in the comments too. I'd love to hear from you. Until then, may you always feel good and make magic.